Hello and welcome to the Home Assistant Podcast. My name's Phil. Joining me as usual, I've got my good friend Rohan. How you doing, mate?
Hey, good. How are you?
Very good, thank you. And today we are joined by Paul. Paul, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Hello there. Nice to see you both.
As usual, this podcast is sponsored by Home Assistant Cloud by Nabucasa. For a small monthly fee, you'll unlock powerful features like secure, effortless access to your system from anywhere, your choice of voice assistants, offsite backups, and more, all configurable in the UI with no YAML needed. It also supports the development of Home Assistant, ESPHome, and other Open Home Foundation projects. Click the link in the description to learn more. We'd also like to give a shout out to our Patreon members, including our executive producers, Benny and Rob. You can help support the show and get early access to episodes, all in an ad-free feed. To support the show, check homeassistant.fm and click Patreon in the menu. Paul, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. Can you tell us whereabouts in the world you're from?
Yes, I'm from England. In fact, the middle of England, pretty much as landlocked as possible in Warwick,
Nice.
where Warwick Castle is, and just up the road from Stratford upon Avon for the memorable places.
And I think we were just discussing before we started, it's the middle or end of June, and you've just almost hit 30 degrees
Yes,
in
lovely.
England there. So welcome to summer, I guess.
That's perfect.
Proper warmth. Yeah.
That's it. So I guess I would like to know a bit about your origin story. I know from the description you sent to us, you've done some pretty cool stuff, but yeah, what sort of led you here to home automation and the Home Assistant podcast today?
Overall, I suppose what I would say led me here was just an interest in gadgets from really early on. And I tried to look at that when I decided to contact you because I wanted to just get across my interest to kind of just show how great it is. It's better than fixing cars because you can't fix cars anymore because they don't break. So this is a lot better.
Yeah.
They're too reliable. Whereas Home Assistant is very reliable, but it keeps you going all the way through. So yes, what got me here, I mean, in life, if that's what you mean, was probably a 65-in-1 kit from Tandy when I was about 7 or 8 years old. And that's basically getting the electronics kit and trying bits and pieces. That was pretty old. I got that, and then I was basically fixing irons and lamps for neighbours and making a bit of money. It was a long time back, as I say. Sinclair watch came out, never really worked. Got zapped by electricity by the time static electricity by the time you unwrapped it. My dad was a chemical engineer. He got into using the Commodore PET, so I used to dabble with that, with old graphics. And then the ZX80 came out. I'm speeding up there, ZX80, and then Hewlett Packard computers. I think I borrowed one of those. But then there came a point, when was it? 1980, 81, 82, where I basically sold my trumpet, bought a BBC computer, and that was it. That was me locked in the bedroom, being fed under the door for years on end of that.
That's awesome.
So that was great. That just opened everything up. And I think the biggest difference with the computer then compared to now is you turned it on and there was just the greater than sign, the prompt. So you had to type stuff, no games.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted a game, you do your own game. And I think that's where it went a bit downhill for kids after my age, because people went straight into games. They weren't lured in by having to type stuff. Have a computing magazine once every month and type it all in. Learn it just by rote, really, typing it in. So I kind of started with that. I remember making a light pen because it was a gadget, and not a gadget. It was one of the projects in there, and you type in all this code and you slowly learn it. And we had a show at school, and I think Princess Anne came round, and they saw this light pen, and I'd sprayed it gold and used a crop clip cover to make the tip look good. It was all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that's what got me going. And then that carried on in terms of education, doing maths, doing physics, going to Warwick Uni, doing a degree in physical electronics and computing. Bit of a mouthful, but it's the physics block and the electronics block. A bit of time in between university at a hospital in the environmental and biomedical engineering area. Sounds better than it is, the EBME. It's pretty much dealing with electronics contracts and then giving them to the nurses, and then they'll just swing it round and say, oh, yeah, that's fine, I've got it back now. This is these transducer things that they use just after we fix them. We got to go, oh, be careful. Then, in terms of going to university, my professor in the third year was a great mad scientist. And I then went from a mad scientist to getting a job in Stratford-upon-Avon with a mad engineer, a guy called Bernard Bollens, who had his own company making test machines. And I set off there. It was the lowest pay of all the jobs. There was some good jobs available with places like Mars at the time. I remember they were paying 10,000 a year, and this job was 7,000 a year. But it was interesting. It was a smaller company. You didn't feel like a little fish in a massive bowl. You saw the start and the end of the job, and that's a big point to me. Not a number really. You get involved, you get the risks, and you do the hours, but the rewards are great. Problem is, computers aren't very forgiving, so it's got to work, or you're screwed really. So yes, I went to that company. I was there for 7 years making test machines, and then I made a leap of faith and set up on my own. And that was 30 years ago, 1994. Went limited in 96, and been running ever since. I employ 8 people for some contractors, and it's all about making machines, and I love it. It's still risky. It's still one-off, so every prototype's got to be perfect. But that's where the fun is. Yeah. So it's all making the machines. There's various examples of that I could perhaps suggest.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to know, can you talk about some of what you've developed?
So, I mean, the thing is, with the BBC, it started off with BBC Basic, which is a fantastic language to use. People didn't like it because it had the word basic in it. I think that's why it worked, but didn't work. Because when it came to industry, nobody wants to say, "Oh, I write in Basic." It just sounds rubbish, But it was a great language. The problem is with BBC Micros, then Acorn, and they're still about. Obviously, the ARM processors and the RISC processing we got into, they were brilliant, fantastic to work with. But IBM had more clout, and IBM took over, and IBM squashed it out, which was a real shame. They just had more clout, and that was it. And that ended up being a nightmare because software was difficult to deal with. And at that point, you'd have to write in C. And then I brought in National Instruments. National Instruments, now owned by Emerson. And I've worked with their language called LabVIEW. I don't know if you've heard of LabVIEW. Surprising that you may not have. It's more, I suppose, for industry. There's a lot in industry because it basically is a graphical language, but it's a full language. What's the graphical language in Home Assistant? Node-RED. That's it.
Node-RED.
It's like a proper implementation of that. It really works well. And I became a software architect, which is a lot of studying to get there with them. It's a high bar exam. And basically, I've done software usually in that mode, or sometimes in PLCs. Beckhoff PLCs are very, very strong now. And so we make machines based in LabVIEW programming and Beckhoff. And then for control of advanced systems, we use an American system called Delta Motion. So the kind of rigs we got involved in over the years, a lot to do with Formula One teams. I can't mention them these things particularly. A lot of these things have restrictions on. But Formula One teams, things like tyre testing, brake testing, clutch testing. I've recently finished upgrading a clutch dynamometer for a company where we basically will take the track data that's been run recently, we'll chop it up and play it through the machine, and basically it'll accelerate up with I think it's a 360 kilowatt motor, and then we'll have flywheels representing the mass of the F1 car, and then we'll slow it down, slam the brakes on to the same rate at which we've seen the driver slows down for the corner. And you see the whole brake disc, the carbon brake disc, just glowing red hot, which also happened during commissioning, which I cooked it a bit too much at that point. But that's great fun. So fair bit of F1 teams, again, clutch testing, tyre testing, laser profiling to see how the tyres operate. That was a very interesting one. One of the fun ones as well that I dealt with was rocket testing and boosters. So you've got a sea level rocket which obviously set off in full atmosphere because it's sea level. So what I got involved with then was actually writing the software for controlling the rocket, for controlling the oxygen and the fuel. So you would have a kind of schedule set up to control the oxygen fuel release within microseconds, so that it's timed right. And what's interesting with that is things like you want to release the oxygen before the fuel. You want to get that out around the collar of the rocket or the booster. I think, I'm not sure because mine was more the software side of that. You want to get the air around there because you want to basically give it a little bit of air. Otherwise, it'll get too hot around the neck and it will melt itself and just fall off. And you see a few of these problems that SpaceX have all the time. It takes quite a bit of head scratching to get it right. So I did rocket testing. What was really was a funny one there was I think early on when I went there, so I sold them the kind of the software to control the rockets, the fuel flow, oxygen flow, and also log the data at high speed. And then for other rockets, they have to be tested in a vacuum. So you have load cell, 3-dimensional load cell, measuring the booster as it fires out the fuel, gives the thrust. So you're logging it at high speed and delivering the fuel. So, but what was funny was I got there one day and they were celebrating this one booster that had fired. I think it had fired for something like 43 seconds. And they're going, "Oh, yes, fantastic, that booster's fired." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Oh, well, it's a booster that's got a satellite in apogee around Venus. And it works, and it's great." So how come you're celebrating now? He says, "Well, we sold it them 7 years ago."
Yeah.
They were celebrating. That was great.
Right.
So that's all been fun. And then I think around the same time I was doing that, I then got a phone call for a company that was a very similar name, and they wanted to ask me if I could do a rig for doing some form of custard stirring machine. So it varies a lot. So it's like custard stirring machines, toaster testing, kettle testing. I did with my I think that was just PLCs at the time. It was quite straightforward. And then other things like larger automations, things like different types of planes, say like the Red Arrows fly. They'll have lots of different hydraulic components. And what we provided with the hydraulics company called Comar, what we provided was a test bed. And so we could basically test all the hydraulic components automatically. That was quite involved because a lot of these specifications are very old or dated, depending on when the program's been developed. But also a lot of test specifications are done as if for a human to try to test the machine with, to test the parts with.
Right.
And the human will always cheat a little bit. They'll say, "Oh yeah, it worked. If I look this way, oh yeah, that's 200 bar, that's fine." Whereas the computer will always say, "No, it's wrong, fail it." And so you always get this problem when you get a test machine made. But we'll always just say how it is and won't give you any leniency. And so that's why automation is a bit difficult, because you have to sometimes tell the customer the truth that, yeah, it's not always passed on this because it's kind of being moved around the corners kind of thing.
Right.
That's all good. A lot of the stuff we do now is recently a nice project for Birmingham University. They're doing some very interesting research in gravity measurement to very, very low levels. That's on YouTube, I think. There's some more details about that. So you can basically start mapping your position based on very accurate gravity measurement. And we did a Stewart table for that, which is basically a Stewart table as a platform. You see them in these like simulated race cars where people sit there and it moves them around and things like this. But we did one for this. We did the one for this sensor that could be kept level as a level platform while it was on a vehicle. That was good. That was a bit of inverse kinematics. So that was translating that down to a kind of good motion control system. And also, what's interesting is things like ESP32 devices is starting to creep in. they can't creep into aerospace so much. It's not really good enough. You've got to have high spec electronics that have been proven and tested, UL certified and all the rest. But there's some areas where it can creep in. A lot of people use I forget what they call it, some old electronics. Well, ESP32s, 2866s, they just can replace it. And that's what we've done I think we used it on that system for this platform, because we could just transfer the data, which was in CAN bus, and convert it and send it back via serial to us. And it was a really low cost, and it worked. It didn't matter that it was low cost home type electronics, because if it went wrong, throw it away, get another one. And it's starting to get that reliability now as well, where you can buy 100 of these things for less than the price of some of the electronics now. I mean, like, if you look at accelerometer will cost you £1,500 that have been fully certified and calibrated and everything. Whereas you can obviously buy IMUs, 6-axis IMUs for 15 quid with all the maths in it to do the correction for the filtering. So it's quite interesting that some of this is nice to start bringing in, providing you keep the level right and make sure it's in the right field of use, really.
So what I'm hearing here is that you love to tinker with gadgets, and that
absolutely.
has led you very far down the rabbit hole, and here you are. Wow. That's actually like really interesting. I know like Rohan's the F1 guy out of me and Rohan here, so I'm sure you picked this interesting. You said F1, but that like the amount of stuff you've just been able to cover, like toasters to rocket ships to cars. That's cool, man. Like
that's some great stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I've gone on a little bit, but I mean, there's stuff like luxury cars, testing those. Like there's an airport standing test where you've got to make sure the car's going to still work after it's been in the airport too long. And the one of the fun ones a couple of years ago was testing huge propeller drive systems for big carrier ships. And what was interesting there was the machine we made. You'll do a machine and you'll write stuff that can control things with like plus or minus 10 volts. We'll do plus or minus 10 kilonewtons or something like this. Well, if you think of a Ferrari, a standard Ferrari car, it's probably got a torque of 500 newton meters, 600 newton meters. I think they're pretty good now, maybe 800 newton meters. Well, the force I was controlling on this, testing this propeller, was 200,000 newton meters, literally. So I've got 0 to 10 volts, 0 to 200,000 newton meters with this huge hydraulic system, all controlled from the desk. And that was great. That's going to follow me to my grave, I think, because I get a phone call every now and again. Can you just get this right or maintain it? And have to fly off to Norway and get it fixed. Yeah, that's great fun. But it's high pressure, but it's the higher the pressure, the more rewarding it is. Really.
Of course.
Yeah.
So
how much of this stuff have you taken and then put into your personal life? So obviously you're a tinkerer. You do a lot of that stuff in your professional life, and you did talk about ESP32s and so on, right? So
exactly.
I suspect you've got more than a couple of things that are.
What's interesting with the Home Assistant start, I think I started Home Assistant about 2017, 2018. I remember I moved into a house and I was so happy that the house had neutral to the switches, because most switches back then you had to have the neutral to the switch to get them working.
Yeah.
Now, thankfully, you only need one wire and it'll take a little feed of a tiny bit of power to keep it going. But I said stuff about then. So that was I ordered a Home Assistant Blue from the States. And that was great. No, I'll put it on a Nook first. We've got lots of Nook computers about, this kind of thing. And so these are nice because they're nice and small. So I'll put it on there. And then I wanted something that didn't eat up so much power, that I could sit behind a television or something. So I then got the Home Assistant Blue, and that's still running nicely. And then I bought the Home Assistant Yellow, set it up for work, which annoyed everyone at work because I keep turning the lights on and off, and when they turn up, it unlocks for them or sometimes doesn't. And the usual, but it's my place. I can I've got a bit of
Yeah.
flexibility
Right.
to try it out.
Yeah.
And for me, the electronics is great, and the use of Home Assistant has re-enlivened electronics, which I really like, because I think ESP32 got to a point where people didn't know what to do with it. They had an answer, they had a solution, but they didn't have any questions of what they can do with it. And I think the best thing most hobbyists did was say, yeah, I've put this ESP32 on to point to these stars in that direction, and it can keep pointing at it. There weren't many reasons to use it. Well, Home Assistant has really ignited it, and especially with the ESPHome Builder, as it's now called.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic, that area. And that's where I think that, especially talking about getting people into education, it's not about the schools, it's about playing at home and getting used to it and doing that in parallel with whatever you want to do at university. But having that background, that's what I will take people on for. That's what I will give people jobs for, because you'll see the fire in their eyes. They're interested. They'll get into it. And Home Assistant opens that up. As long as they can get away from the game side, put that down and just do some more tinkering instead. And it's so cheap now. Everything from AliExpress and whatever is just so available. So I've always been interested in electronics and playing with it, but now it makes it more fun, because you can get the usual thing about fun is being able to enjoy these things and getting results quickly. And Home Assistant does that. But what makes it even better at the moment is the parts are really cheap, relatively, and also the advent of AI, because Home Assistant used to be a case of looking everywhere to try and find the answers. And as soon as anybody kind of discussed on the web about different problems, they would, as soon as they'd solved it and people had given them ideas, they'd disappear. You'd never see the actual final solution, right?
Right.
So it was so frustrating trying to fix things and work them out. Well, that's all gone. AI's here, and it's fantastic. So I'm riding that wave until it runs over us all. And with AI, it means, again, for anybody, you can say, right, how am I going to do this? I've got a box of stuff here I've just had delivered this week. It's like, again, I talked to AI. My wife has got these little lights outside, solar lights. And I thought, it's broke, the battery's gone. So I thought I'd upgrade it. Went on AI. Okay, I can upgrade it like this. And I wanted to get it connected to Home Assistant. And I thought, okay, well, I can change the charger. Oh, no, I'll use the same one. I talked to AI. It says, well, you might as well change the battery to this. You might as well do that. I ended up having a new solar panel to put on there, a new charger board, a new something else, a few parts, a battery. So I've spent about £40 on bits to do 3 lights. And the light, I think she told me yesterday, is about 14 quid, the whole thing to start with. So
Right.
But it was good. You're learning, And then, again, with Home Assistant, I've started putting it on other things. I put it on the Office, so it controls lots of things there. But also I put it on, I bought a boat last year, and I've put it on there. And the beauty of putting a Home Assistant on there is, A, I can pull the camera in and see what's happening. B, I can then connect to a very common, the one thing is I wanted to know about solar. You don't know about these things until you jump on and play with them. Okay, so I thought, well, I'll get it. So I bought a solar panel. I didn't really need it. And now it sits on top of the boat. I can monitor the solar. I can see how useless it is in England, from anything from about August to about April. And I can plot it and do fantastic graphics with it and export them and analyze them all through Home Assistant. And that just makes it so much easier to get results. And to, the Victron is a very well-known, very good solar charger, but you don't want those bits. You just want to shove an ESP32 on the end, read the serial, get it back to everything else. And that's doable, and it's doable easily. And if you don't know it, use AI, get the answers, buy the bits, try it out. It's all low voltage. You're not going to break anything, he says. So I've got it there. I mean, the funny thing about the boat is, yes, I've got the camera, but actually the only really reason for power on it at the moment is just so I can monitor it and just see what it's doing. But that's great fun to do that. There's other things that's toothbrush detection. I don't know if you remember when Bluetooth came out for Home Assistant.
Oh, that was
It was
the
funny.
Oral-B integration, right? Like everyone went nuts for these Bluetooth toothbrushes, right? Everyone had
I
to
know.
have one.
Well, I just saw it pop up. No, it's my wife's toothbrush plus next door's. And the first thing she says, right, she says, that's it. I'm going to call the solicitor. And that's a number one reason for the divorce case. That's going to be it. He's monitoring my toothbrush.
That's funny.
So,
Well, it's even especially when you're seeing like your neighbor's one and stuff like that, right? And it's
it's
like,
crazy.
oh, okay, they're clearly not brushing their teeth enough or something like that, right?
Well, I was joking about it. I said, "Oh, Marie, you've turned the toothbrush on, and I noticed the gardener arrives around now. What's going? Just stop it! I'm going. That's it. I'm going to solicitor." So everything has to pass the WAF test, as you probably know. I don't know why it's a predominantly bloke thing, but it is. And it's quite good that I have to pass the what's it? The WAF test. What is the WAF test?
Acceptance factor.
Acceptance factor. That's it. Because she wants normal switches, and that's where you have to put normal switches on. I thought touch switches were the future, and they look fantastic. And then she says, "No, I don't like them. I just want a switch that clicks." And she's right. She wanted the haptic feedback before we knew the word for it, So that kind of normalizes me a bit, but I do, stretch out too far and put lots of other gadgets everywhere. Like this desk, I think. Who's the guy? Everything New in Home Assistant. Got his name here.
There's a few now.
Mark Benson, a Scottish guy. Brilliant. And he told me about a desk, electric desk, to stand up and sit down. And that's okay. But then he says, okay, put this on, ESP32. I popped it on. And now you can see it in Home Assistant. In fact, I bought one of my guys downstairs. He wanted one. So I got him that as long as I could put the sensor on. And I'm not spying. I just want to do it because it's good. It's interesting. But then again, there's no point in having an electric desk if you don't actually get it to set off. And normally people, I think after a couple of years, it'll just probably sit there. Well, this one, I've got a radar up there, a radar. And if I'm sitting here for more than an hour, it just says, right, I'm going up now. Flashes the light, says I'm going up. And that just keeps you using it, just little steps. I went to France to see a buddy of mine a couple of months ago, and he had a nice mirror as well that was lit up, and it had defogging. Got back, looked at Amazon. Oh, mirrors, £100. And the beauty of the mirror for £100 is it's got lots of room in the back. And the beauty of Home Assistant, ESP, and all that lot is it's low voltage. So I could put the mirror on the wall. I had a feed there anyway, and then put a 4-channel relay ESP on there and control the mirror turning on and off. In fact, all these mirrors, they're very basic, and they just turn the light on. When you turn the light on with a touch switch, they turn the heater on anyway, which is a bit of a waste. No point. So now what this does, it basically, you hang it, it's, as I say, it's got room for it. It's got the board in there. And so connected through Home Assistant, I can read one of the sensors for humidity. If it goes over a certain humidity level, it turns the heater on just by itself and just demists then. And that's lovely. It's that's nice and simple. So I just did a little, I wrote up that as a paper and just showed it on Facebook or something in case anybody was interested. But it's just those little things. A lot of the big things are being sorted, but little things like that are interesting. Things like an interesting one is now if I go downstairs in the evening after 10 o'clock, the infrared sensors will know that I'm probably going down to feed the cat and go to bed. So it'll basically say, "Oh yes, hello Paul." It'll say it in an AI way, so it'll be all flamboyant and change it all the time. But it'll then say, "Okay, well your battery's got 85%, so it's okay," or it'll say your battery's got 10%, so you need to plug the car in and charge it. And that's really useful, So yeah, I am interested in that, and I enjoy it.
That's cool.
But when you started with Home Assistant, or what did you start with Home Assistant? I mean, you've clearly been into gadgets a long time, so surely maybe you would have done the whole start with X10, go from there, started somewhere else, and then come along to Home Assistant when it sort of.
Well, that's it. I mean, Yeah, I started obviously with bits of electronics when it was brought into the business and making things for the outside world. I was making test machines, false leg test machine, where you've got to do test a leg for a life cycle by compressing it over so many millions of cycles. Well, I could do all that on the industrial side. There wasn't so much on the hobbyist side. Like I said, it kind of met a bit of a glass ceiling, but Home Assistant opened it up more. Um, as I say, yeah, before that, though, I used things like IFTT, if this, then that, um, and other like Tuya stuff, but Tuya still isn't, yeah, it's still problematic, Smart Things was very nice. I think that was bought out, but now it's really nice that, I just go onto AliExpress, and I'll just type in Zigbee.
Yep.
So if anything new's come out of Zigbee, I'll get it just to try it out because it's so easy. And I think then you've got this unit here that's quite nice. I've got that at home, which is
is that that's the PoE one?
That's the PoE one,
based
yeah. So I've got that at home because you can put this in MQTT mode and get a bit more information sometimes. Like the hose there's a nice cheap solution from what do you call it?
Just for the benefit of myself that couldn't see what that was on the screen and the listeners.
Sorry. It's I'll open it up here. Yeah, Sonos. Yeah. So this is the actual unit. I think this is SM Lite model ZLB06. Can you see that? It's that unit. As you say, it's basically Zigbee with PoE power or direct power, and it's very nice, good range.
So you can essentially run that as your Zigbee radio, plug it into a power, an Ethernet, PoE, Ethernet, and that becomes your Zigbee radio.
That's right. So I use this as well as the normal. There's other Zigbee plugins that you put about 10 centimeters away from your box to reduce interference. I've got that for standard Zigbee, ZHA, I think you call it, don't you? And then I've got this for MQTT, partly because I bought the Sonos hose switch. On your outside hose, you can just turn it on. So when I go and clean my car, I like to walk up to the car with the hose in my hand, go to my phone and turn it on, and then you can turn it on and off, and that's great. just for fun. But that's got other values like volume of water and things like that ZHA don't give, but that this thing does. So I put this on just to try. It's a case of just, well, if it's a few quid, try it. If it doesn't work, doesn't matter. And then other Zigbee, I've just added on another Bluetooth thing on here so that I can talk to my Ember mug. I don't know if you've seen these. That's
nice.
It tells me how much is in there and everything, and how warm my tea is.
So your like cupboard of shame. I have a pretty bad cupboard of shame with all the gadgets that I've seen on AliExpress. Like, that's the thing, I'll buy that. I can only imagine how bad your cupboard of shame is.
Well, I don't know. It's pretty bad. Yeah. I think the worst thing is in drones. I got into drones a long time ago, and there's a cupboard of shame of drones. I try and be choosy about it. But things like gadgets, the one proper gadget, my definition of a gadget that's good is one that's still on your bedside table after 6 months. If it's not there, if you haven't picked it up and used it, like everyone's got, a lot of people have got obviously AirPods. They're always in my pocket, a pen knife always in my pocket, and it's so there's lots of gadgets out there. A lot of them don't go into the cupboard of shame, as you say, but I try to minimize it.
It's funny. I've gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, it's getting excessive, and now I need to shed anything like, I don't know, 3+ years old, right? And it's not relevant. It's not whatever. It's technology evolves fast enough, right? So just purge it if I'm not already using it. So it's
I've got. I mean, I don't know if you're interested. I've got There we go. Let's have a look. I've got a box of shame, which if I can show, a box of shame. But this is like, let me just. I mean, look at these phones. They're lovely and small. These old iPhones.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
an iPod, and what else? The camera at the time was great. Oh, sorry, my camera's the wrong way around. That was lovely.
Yep.
Hmm.
There's the best GPS unit that cost me a fortune. That's now just a waste of
Yeah.
time. It's all in my
Yeah,
phone.
I mean, yeah, phone, right?
All these
Well, and
kind of
that's it.
things.
And that's
Have you considered repurposing some of this stuff? Like you clearly seem a little bit switched on with this whole technology and gadget stuff. Like maybe you could put that GPS unit to use on the boat somehow to communicate back with Home Assistant, or chuck an ESP chip in it somehow and make it over the world.
That was 450 quid, probably 20 years ago. I used it for geocaching, and I used to drag my daughter out going geocaching, and she never really loved it. She didn't really get it. I enjoyed it.
That's
Yeah.
where you go out and like a hidden treasure or something, right?
Yeah.
Or someone, a trinket or
Yeah, that's it. And that was really good. And I did the odd cache myself. And then once I went skiing with my friends, and I thought, oh, fantastic! I've got to do a geocache somewhere. It was in somewhere in France we were skiing, and so what I thought, I went into the shop and I bought a. I thought, well, what can I put something in? So I went to the shop. I found a cigar. You know, the expensive cigars are in an aluminium tube. So I bought that. I went outside and there was this guy, a bit of a tramp, on the step. And I said, "Yeah, do you want a cigar?" I said, "Oh, thanks very much, mate." So I just kept the tube, put something in it, put a note, made it an official geocache, and then skied down, tried to find the odd tree that was kind of fairly good area to put it in. Put it in, put it onto the website. I've done this geocache, put it in there. And they said, "No, well, you've just come home now. That's no one can service it. So that's not called a geocache. That's called rubbish. You've just created some waste."
Oh,
So, that wasn't a good one.
At
Dear.
least
Well-
it rules around it, right? Like,
Get someone else to go and visit it and
yeah.
make sure it
Yeah.
still exists. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, because there's this isn't the first time geocaching has come up in our home assistant. It seems like there's a pretty big overlap of users, or not, I don't know, big, but a decent amount. It's a non-zero amount
Yeah.
of overlap of users that use Home Assistant and that enjoy geocaching, right? So it sounds cool. I've never done it myself, but it sounds interesting.
It was good because you end up, going for a walk to places across fields that you wouldn't have any reason to go across, and that was
Right.
fun, especially because my daughters were young, and it was just nice to go out walking with them, taking them somewhere, and just going over different places, and that was good. Yeah.
And I know there is an integration in Home Assistant for geocaching where
Oh, yeah.
where you can do like counts and the favorite points and all of those kind of things. So
Yeah, there
Yeah.
was.
I think what failed with geocaching for me though was they either sold it on or started to monetize too quickly on it, because for a lot of people you just want the free service and just use that. But I went off it from the point at which they started charging, because it wasn't really it wasn't that much interest. It was a good interest, and there's a level at which you've got to keep people on a kind of free level, to perhaps bring them in other ways, perhaps with sponsorship like you guys, because it works very well that way. Yeah. No, it's been interesting. There's other things that were of interest as well. When I've got two daughters. When Abby was 1 year old, I went to see the doctor, and I got a bit of a shock because I had a problem in one of my eyes, and I thought I'll go to the doctor after a while and see what I can do, see what the problem is. And what they do is they do a test. They time how long it takes for a signal flashing in the front of your eye to get down the nerves to the back of your head. And I went in to see him, and I said, "Well, what's wrong?" And he said, "Oh, actually, well, obviously you've got MS." And I didn't even know about it. I was a complete shock. And at that point, he gave me like between 1 year and 20 years to live. And that was interesting. It's made me appreciate life a little bit more, let's say.
wow.
So with multiple sclerosis, you get different forms of it depending on how fast it occurs. And I've been very, very lucky. It's the new drugs and things are very, very good, and I've been fine. There were a few things a while back, and now I'm pretty much fine, which is fantastic. What was interesting though is I managed to put gadgets onto that, because that was when Windows phones were out, and I did an app for the injection sites, because you have to inject yourself in a different place each day. So I did an app for that, and then I did it on the iPhone, an app for that. So site
Interesting.
injection. and that was good fun.
Just for yourself, like, did you make like it as a private app, or did you then release it onto the app stores for other people to use it? Oh,
I did it as a private app when I could program in Visual Basic, of a form of Visual Basic, on a Windows phone, which is probably in that box somewhere. But then when it became an an iPhone, I actually got one of my guys who was more familiar with the software set up. Swift it is now, isn't it? I got one of him to write the app, and he wrote the app, and I put it on, and I made a bit of money. I made not enough. I mean, I made a few £100 off it over a year or two, something like this. But
Sure.
it was interesting. I do remember the app was. I couldn't get my head around the licensing and the actual different ways of trying to get the app working. It was really complicated. And this younger guy I was using, Zen, he just jumped on it. Says, "Oh yeah, you do this obviously," and the certification was just a mind blowing. Well, now I got an app done the other day, and I asked ChatGPT to do it, and it just wrote the app, and it pressed a button, and it did a webhook. So I literally asked Home Assistant. No, I asked AI, ChatGPT. No, was it ChatGPT or was it Google? One of them, Claude, I think it was actually. I just said, write this thing. It wrote the lot, and it worked on the phone. I mean, this is where things are going to change. So I'm not going to be writing software so much anywhere, but I still have to be a good architect of that software and know how to make machines work and kind of automate it a bit. Yeah. Which might also be the end of graphical programming, but we'll see. That's another thing, another subject.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, AI is a great way to do things like that, right? I also think if you're looking to upgrade your smart home, you can't go past Zeus. Add Z-Wave at long range to your home assistant setup with the Zeus ZST39 USB radio. Their advanced technology operates in dual network mode, combining a reliable mesh system with ultra-fast direct device-to-hub connectivity. And with Z-Wave long-range support, you can get coverage up to 1,300 feet or 400 meters, both indoors and outdoors. Oh, and it's extremely secure with unique DSK QR code scanning, which you can now do directly in Home Assistant. The Z-Wave JS integration in Home Assistant enables seamless compatibility with a range of brands, all working together through this secure, private, and standardized off-cloud protocol. But that's just the start. Zeus offer a range of affordable and innovative devices, including water leak sensors, water valve controllers, smart plugs, scene controllers, and even color paddles. The color paddles for their scene controllers, dimmers, and switches allow the smart devices to blend seamlessly into your home. For the best prices on all Zeus products, head over to thesmartesthouse.com. That's thesmartesthouse.com.
So, Paul, we were talking about AI and leveraging AI and all those different things. Kind of in that vein, I'm wondering, are you doing anything with AI locally at home, like running, some kind of a Jetson box or something like that, or even a
Your own personal Jarvis. Surely you've got it. You're the tinkerer, mad scientist sort of vibe I'm picking that's got Jarvis
right,
already, right?
right. Are you doing anything on that front?
Uh, no, I'm not. I mean, I use AI all the time. And I've got it for the ChatGPT. I've got the license for all my guys as well, because it is incredible. In terms of the automation, I've got the, what's the new little speaker box, the little Home Assistant?
Voice Preview Edition.
That's
The
it, the
voice,
voice preview edition. I've got that. And basically I've set it up to do things. Jarvis, I'm not familiar with, I'm afraid.
Jarvis Iron Man, like the ultimate assistant, I don't know, it's like I don't know, another
It's
Samantha Her. I don't know, there's so many. Computer from Star
yeah,
Trek, probably. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've kind of got it set up to just help with things and talk with things, but it hasn't had the only hook it's got with AI is making up different fancy sentences at the moment for when the car needs charging and things like that. And it'll talk to me a bit.
Have you got like a script, make sure it's funny or, act in this sort of persona?
That's it. Yeah. I just say I'm full Riley. I'm a bit geeky and I like my gadgets. And my wife's got a bit of a poorly shoulder at the moment. I said, my daughter's at university here. My other one's doing this. And so every time it goes on, it says, "Oh, how's your daughter? She's still studying down there. And how's your wife's shoulder? Oh dear, not so bad. But hey, the car's working and you're a great geek." It's just daft. But it's just I don't need it, but you just throw it in
Yeah.
and try it. And some of those reflect through to work at some point. There's the vision stuff. Now I'm really looking forward to AI and the vision side, because I've done a lot with National Instruments vision analysis, like pills going down a production line, and you have cameras to see if the pack's got them in or not, and the orientation. That used to be really, really difficult. And now, with the integration of AI, that's really good. You can't quite. There's still some way to go, because there's still always be some doubt with AI compared to an industrial type of yes/no digital solution. So that's got to go a bit further. The robotic side's got to go a bit further, kind of take over the PID control a bit more. That's that. But what I'm doing is soaking myself into it, especially AI, so that as soon as I see any advantage, I'll jump on it. I mean, the advantages are all there in actually asking to do things, and looking at people's CVs and dropping them all in and getting reviews and seeing what it thinks of the person in the CV, of having meetings, and not just transcribing meetings, but saying, what do you think of the people in that meeting and their how they responded, that kind of thing. But I'm just using it as much as possible, because, as I say, if we don't ride the wave, we will sink, and it will. I can't believe how many. Well, when I say I can't believe, I met a couple of engineers a few months ago and asked them about AI, and they looked completely clueless. I can't believe it. I was gobsmacked. They should be eating and breathing AI, or they will disappear. So you just have to do it. You have to join it, and make the most of it. It's the only way. It's like saying, well, we've got cars now. Why do we need horses? I still want to go on a horse. Well, sorry, cars have taken over. There's no going back. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the genie's out of the bottle in this case, I think.
Absolutely. And it is people I can't believe people don't realize how incredible it is. I know millions of people, tens of millions of people are understanding AI, but they still don't get it, how big it is. It's bigger than the wheel,
Yeah.
It really is. And it's it's incredible. Yeah.
So, I mean, big topics here, but I would like to know, what is in Paul's favorite top 5 automations that he's got in his house at this stage? What have you done with home assistant? You go, yeah, you know what? That's cool.
Yeah, I think none of them are huge, but I've enjoyed each one. But that mirror demist was a great one, because I think that's nice. It's £100 product from Amazon. It's easy to do with some basic electronics. You can take the back off, so you've got room to put things in. So definitely the mirror demist. And also the thing about the mirror demist is these touch buttons that are on all these, they're from China somewhere, but they've all got these glowing blue buttons. Now, I don't want the usual thing is that most people they get out of bed and they go, oh, I've got to go to the toilet, I'm going to wander to the bathroom. You've got to have something to detect you to turn the lights on. So normally I'd have like a £5 Alibaba or whatever switch that's underneath the cupboard that turns on. Well, now it's all home assistant based. So it's basically an infrared detector or a radar detector. And basically that now means that the biggest thing between home assistant and normal infrared switching is the time factor, I think. So it's simple, but it means that your bathroom light doesn't come on after 10 o'clock. A little light comes on. In fact, in this case, the mirror power goes on after midnight, I think it is. So the mirror power goes on after midnight, and that glows enough to see where you are. So that's fine. And then when the humidity is over a certain level, then obviously the demisting comes on. So that was a great one, because it was quite straightforward. The other one was, I think, integrated. Where I live, we've got a little shared car park facility. It's got electric gates. So that was great. Just a quick trip to Sonoff to get a 5-volt switch and open the gate box and override the relay. Again, very easy. I mean, everything's easy when you know how, but it is just 5 volts and tying on the power. So override the relay, and then I can basically, from my car or my watch, just touch it and open the gates. And everyone else has to press these clickers, So
Yeah.
that's really nice. And also, it's not very good at knowing your time very quickly in GPS locations. So what I'll do is when I drive more than 2 kilometers away, it says, oh, I'm away in the car. I know this one's already built in, but I say I'm away in the car because I'm more than 2K. I'm not going to do that walking. So I'm away in the car. And then on the way back, it resets the Boolean to say, well, if you were away in the car, reset that. And now if you're within 100 meters, then I'll open the gates because I know you've been in the car and open the gates. But there's still an error of probably about 30 seconds. So you might arrive and have to actually wait 5 seconds for the gates to open, which is disgusting in this automated world. So
No, that
yeah,
is
that's a good one.
absolutely unacceptable.
It
Like,
is.
have you considered putting like a license plate recognition camera somewhere to make it even faster? Like,
Yes, I have actually, and I know a lot of people have got into Frigate and all the rest, but I think that's been overtaken by AI, hasn't it? I haven't looked at Frigate much, but I know I've started messing with the camera where it'll detect people outside and describe them. That's so easy, that plugin. It's fantastic. So
yes,
I've got a cat camera where the cat comes in through the cat flap and see it go by. So I can get it to describe the cat. So the thing with me is, you know, the Home Assistant front panels, they're all lovely and good and usable, but I still use it in a fairly basic way because once I've got it working, once I've proven the concept, I'm happy. And then I'll move on to the next thing because it's about taking the technology, proving the concept and thinking, right, okay, well, I know that works. So I'll park that there. And then if I've got something even work related in some fancy test machine, then I'll think, oh yeah, I could do that way. And it's just trying all the concepts out and doing it that way. So there's that. There's obviously a little panel I've got in the kitchen that shows me one of the HA panels, and that's connected to. They're always a bit rubbish because you can't keep the battery plugged in all the time because it'll knacker the battery.
Yeah.
So I had that then switching the battery off when it got over 80%, but that only lasts about 2 years. So that's good and bad. It gets there. Yeah, that kind of thing. The boat's been interesting. Recently, I've got it turning the fridge off when the power's used up on the battery because it's not a LiPo battery. LiPo's great, and the old ones are cheaper, but not so good.
Do you find that on the boat, like with running Home Assistant, because you said you run a dedicated instance of Home Assistant on the boat, correct?
Yeah.
And so do you find that with the boat going on and off and like shore power, no shore power, whatever, if you guys do power it that way, do you find that that causes any weirdness in terms of or like blips or anything like that, or do you find that that could potentially affect the circuitry or anything like that, or do you have like a UPS or something?
Yeah, on in terms of shore power, you don't tend to get much in the way of blips, but the 12-volt battery is not a very good, reliable source. So the HA green in that case, I put it behind a light panel. I replaced all the panels, by the way, for touch switches, because otherwise you've got most cabin cruisers have these death panels that spike you in the head with these stupid little switches they invented years ago. So I replaced those with little nice cheap LED light. So I put it behind this box, but you put a little 12 volts converter. So it's basically 4 to 30 volts in and 12 volts. Well, 12 to 30 volts in and 12 volts out, just to smooth it off a little bit, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then sometimes I'll do fuse protection, things like that for the fridge. Yeah. So yeah, have to be a bit careful there. NS panels, you know those as well, don't you? The little NS panels. All I spent loads of money on thermostats. I think I'm on the third set of thermostats, like robo vacuum cleaners. But radiator valve thermostats are the biggest waste of money anyone can buy, I think, because I've had those for 5 years. I'm in my third set now. I think I'm using Sonoff thermostats, and they're great. They're Zigbee, and they work very well. But I've never had such, whether it's me and I can look at the temperature, but I've never had more complaints from my wife about the temperature being wrong in the house because these thermostats really don't compare to a boring old wax type thermostat next to you. They just
Interesting.
Is it like a software glitch, or like surely they would have much more accurate sensors, right?
They should, but the problem is with the sensors by the side of the radiator, they get distorted heat.
Right there.
It's too close. You can get in add-on through hacks. You can get add-ons for third-party thermostats, so you can have another temperature sensor away from it. But they're never quite right. They're never you know it accurately. But again, with our house, we've got underfloor heating. So there's like a 4 or 5 hour delay before it actually works right. You've got this very low feedback of underfloor heating because it's so slow. So it can never get it tuned right. Whereas the old kind of thermostats were just slow and did their job. The new ones, you have to change the batteries every year. Although I have that reminder that tells me the flattest battery, which is a little add-on hacks, I think. But I still use it. I still have it. I still have faith in it. But I've never had so many complaints about the temperature being incorrect compared to a nice slow up or down from mechanical control. Unfortunately, yeah.
So, so you've got the Voice PE edition. Have you dabbled with anything like the Google Home or Amazon Echo for voice control?
I'm waiting to see what Amazon are going to do with this release. I think it's going to be free at the moment for their AI being introduced, and then free if you pay their yearly amount, which is cheaper anyway.
The Little Lady Plus for their AI add-on.
Yeah, that's going to be really exciting. Again, just jump on it and see what it does. They've got all the money behind them to build a really good system. So that'll be interesting to see how it goes. I was interested to see how the Home Assistant was actually used for the testing of the what's the next network? Not Zigbee, the Matter.
Matter.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, because Home Assistant is so versatile, you can see how that is great to be doing that kind of testing. How the effect of Amazon on board will be, I'm not sure. We'll just have to watch this space, I think. But you can't beat. I'm not that bothered about security. Everyone's bothered about security. Well, we're one of 8 billion people. Nobody's that interested, really. But I'm reasonably interested. But the whole cloud idea of having local control is great, not just for security reason, just for the fact it works and things can go wrong. So I don't know how that will bear up with Amazon's new system. It still always had that weakness of being a cloud system. But it's I think if they've done it right, which they should be able to, he knows how to do these things, then it should be pretty revolutionary. You have to see. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be interested. I mean, my sort of usage of the Amazon Echo has gone down a lot, right? Just not responding properly, not hearing me. I guess, back in the early days when she was released, she was great. She had a lot of promise.
But that's all going though. That all that software set will disappear with AI, won't it? And it's like Siri. I mean, how they can do such a bad job of Siri, be so useless, and how they can't just redo it and still call it Siri, I don't know. But but round the corner, if they put AI in it, it's going to be a different story, isn't it? Because it'll recognise your voice. Same as how many places you phone now and ask yourself if it's a robot or not. I was talking to one with insurance the other day, and actually I didn't know if it was a robot or not, if it was AI or not. It's not even a robot, but I kind of preferred that it was AI, because then I could kind of be a bit more like, yeah, tell me that. No, tell me again. And I knew it wouldn't wind it up because it was just a machine, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Whereas normally when you're talking to these people, it's just a pain because, they haven't heard you right or something. Whereas here you can you can give it a bit more abuse because it's AI and just get on with it and ask all the questions you need, and it will be pretty good.
I think that's all we had, unless, Phil, you got anything else?
Yeah, I mean, my main point of being on here really is, I suppose, is to show how I find it enjoyable. I mean, lots of people don't, but then I don't like football and lots of people like football. What can I say?
Fair enough.
It's mainly saying, it's never been easier and cheaper to get into electronics, get into Home Assistant, and with AI, it makes it easier. And really to say, these parents, if they think they've got kids that just want to do this kind of, if they look at things where they kind of, like me, where you take it apart and put it back together again, and you want to know how everything works. I mean, I need to know how everything works. If it doesn't, I'll question it and find out until it works. If you've got that kind of, if you've got those kind of children, or even if you haven't, you can nurture it. Get them something like an HA Green. I'm not bad to that, but give them an HA Green box and just drop it on the table and get started, because it's not all about turning lamps on. With the electronic ESP, it's massive, and the plugins are great. And you can do it easy or you can do it difficult. You choose, and it'll accommodate both.
Yeah, and I mean, we've had a couple of folks on the show as well that they've made kind of careers out of this, right? About both on the vendor space as well as just like, hey, I was tinkering, I did all this stuff, and then I learned these skills, and then I got a job out of that, right? Maybe not in the smart home space, but
That's right, but it's
electronics.
more than that. As I see, that's a starter. And yes, you can carry on doing
Yeah.
something with a Home Assistant. Again, you're dealing with the public, and the public are a bit more fickle, and the job sizes are limited. I mean, the jobs we do,
Mhm.
we've currently got a job that's it's just over £1 million job. It's engrossing. It's detailed, lots of meetings and everything. It's getting that
Sure.
education through a little bit of electronics. And once you're on that
Yeah.
rung of the ladder, you can see a bit more. Then you go on next one, learn more and more, and you can see further. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
you touch on this electronics, and you'll straight away touch on. See, I'm not into software that does like accounting stuff. I'm into software where you press a button, you break something, you move something, you shift something, and this
Sure.
helps with that. The ESPs all help with that kind of thing. So you
Yeah.
can get much further and create a career off learning some of this stuff and build it further. You know.
Someone was listening today and they had a similar interest. They want to get into the hardware tinkering sort of thing. Maybe they don't know where to start. Maybe they've got the first ESP board or the ESP chip and they want to take it a bit further. Any resources or any tips you would give someone where to go next or how to get up the next rung of the ladder?
Yeah, I think the way in which you've implemented the ESP side into Home Assistant is great. So straight away with the Home Assistant Green, you plug it in. You don't have to do anything. You just think about it, set it up, and it'll find something. The next thing is just go to Amazon. Excuse me. Get a ESP32 board and just plug it in. Just if you're not sure what to do, it plugs straight into USB-C now, so that's fine. And then the next thing is you go onto AI and go, okay, I've got this and I've got that. What do I do now? And it'll say, okay, well, just get Home Assistant to find it, get it to download this program. And the magic there that someone thought of very, very well is it'll download Wi-Fi and a backup Wi-Fi password. So as soon as it's at that point, you unplug it, put it somewhere else, and you don't have to worry about it. You can just program it from wherever it is. So I would say if you're starting up, start with a little Home Assistant box, get an ESP32, use AI to tell you about it, tell you about the inputs and outputs. Start off with the Blink program in Arduino, where you just basically download the Arduino software, download the Blink program. All these steps are fully described. If you go onto AI and says, right, talk like I'm a 12-year-old, tell me how to do this, and it'll go dum, 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 and you just follow it along. And it doesn't matter that you're doing basic things. I have to go back and do basic electronics, or I still watch techniques in basic electronics, but I'm still doing rocket science, and it's great. And so start with those basics, use AI to tell you the basics, because you've got no shame in talking to AI, and it'll tell you everything at any speed you like. And then just plug it in, get the light turning on and off, and then go from there. You've got, at the end of the day, from there, you've got digital inputs, which is on or off, and you've got analog inputs. And that's all you need to make any machine, that's it.
That's awesome. That's actually a great summary right there. That's
Good.
fantastic.
Well, Paul, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll leave links in the show notes where people can contact you. And yeah, it's been a fantastic and very interesting talk. So thank you for
My pleasure.
sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks very much.